Welcome to this new video of the 3D game programming series for WebNG2.0. In the previous video we started creating some behaviors for our game, and now it's turn to keep writing, keep coding, and now we will try to create a following behavior for the camera. If you remember, we need to make the camera following the chip. It's not enough just attaching the camera to the chip. So let's go back to it.
The first thing we have to do is create a new behavior. We will call it follow behavior. We make it serializable. We will add again a transform component. That's a required component. This component will allow the owner entity to follow another one. So the main thing we have, the main property we need to add is just the path to the target entity. We only need to add the entity name or the entity path. So we make it as a data member to make it serializable as a child of the behavior class and implement the update method. If we rebuild the project and we go back to the editor and reload it, and add the component to the default camera, follow behavior, here we have. You will see that the entity path is just a text box. We can click here, but we want to add it a more intelligent behavior. So WebEngine offers a set of attributes to change the appearance of the property in the property panel. For example, for this property, the most useful is render property as entity. That will allow us to pick in the editor to pick an entity to show an entity dialog where we can select the entity that we want. This property also have an interesting parameter, which is setting the different component that we want the selected entity to have. For example, if we want the entity to have the transform 3D, we just have to set the complete path of the class, the namespace and the name of the class, in this case transform 3D. Now if we rebuild the solution, we'll see, and if we select the camera, in this case, in the follow behavior, the entity path now let us to pick the entity we want. If we select, we should select the ship entity. So okay, let's back to the coding. The first thing we have to do is in the initialize method, we override again the initialize method. We have to get the entity. It's as easier as asking the entity manager for the entity path. We pass the path that we have here. Then we need to get the target transform, the transform of the entity we will follow. And set it from the entity. We have just get. We will return if the entity doesn't exist or is null. So, okay. This will get the entity. Now the next thing we have to do is to make the current entity, the owner entity of this behavior, to follow the target transform. In the update method, we will make the calculation for doing that. The first thing we have to do is just ignore this update if the target transform is null. So to make a smooth following, we have to make like an interpolation between the position of this transform, the entity transform, and the target transform, the transform of the entity we are following. To do that, we have a lerp method in the vector 3. With that can make you interpolate between two vectors values. So in the first parameter, we will set the position, the transform position of the owner entity. In the second parameter, we will add the target transform position. And for the amount of the lerp must be a value between 0 and 1. 0 means that the position will be the initial position and 1 will be the target position. So if we create a position based in the game time total seconds, this value in most of the time will be a really small value, but I think it's better to add this factor, in this case 10. So maybe sometimes if the frame rate is low, this can be more than 1. So to make it better, we will just take the minimum value between 1 and this value. So if the total second with this factor is greater than 1, we will just take 1. Okay, so this is the position. So alright, with this small behavior, we will make an entity just follow another entity with a smooth transition. It's not like immediately. Now the next thing we have to do is to set this behavior to the camera entity. So we go back to the editor. We see here the entity path. Now we simulate, we will see, however, that the camera is inside the chip. You can see that it's moving. And it's not a correct effect. We have to move the camera a little bit. That's because every frame, the behavior moves its transform to the chip position. So let's back to it. So to do that, we will create an intermediate entity. Create empty entity, and we will call it camera holder. And the default camera 3D will be a child of it. So if we set the camera holder position to 0, we set the position we center the camera. And then what we have to do is to add the follow me behavior to the holder instead of the camera. Follow behavior, and add the entity path. And let's simulate now. We can see that the camera is moving. For this demo, we will remove the free camera 3D behavior. We don't want the camera to rotate freely, just to follow the ship. Now, you can see that we can control the chip. The next little step that we have to do is just make the camera to rotate along with the chip. So go back to the code and do the same with the rotation. Okay, and now we can rebuild the project. Go back to the editor. Now if we simulate the application, we can see that the camera rotates along with the chip. Which is perfect, and you can see that the follow is really smooth, which is perfect for our game. So this will be the video, and in the next one we will create the asteroid fields and the collision detection and the error set logic. So I hope you enjoyed and you learned with us, and let's stay tuned, and I hope you like it. Thank you very much.